The glories of the third dimension. One day they said all things would be made this way. But moving 3D pictures have never made it to the home. Tonight, we'll be peering deep into the dream of 3D TV. We've seen the future, and it doesn't look anything like these.
Also, the biggest breakthrough in electronics since the invention of the microchip. So remember where you saw it first. But before all of that, Carmen's out in the car park.
What's a girl supposed to do with one of these? Well, Ray and John reckon they found a good use for it. But why cut a hole in the windscreen? Well, this tool was invented by an American firefighter to help reach motorists trapped in their cars. The side windows of cars are made out of ordinary glass, so if they're hit with a spring-loaded center punch, they shatter in a controlled way. But the windscreen is laminated. This one is 3 layers of plastic and glass glued together, so it shouldn't shatter if it's hit by a stone. Now, that's all right if you're driving along, but after an accident, it could cause problems. Now, cutting a hole large enough so you can reach in is a slow process, and an axe could get stuck in the plastic layers. Now, doing it quicker could help save lives. Now, an ordinary saw is no good going through the glass, but this has a special blade, and it's the arrangement of these tiny teeth that make cutting a hole easy. In fact, it's just about the only way to cut through a modern windscreen, because these days the windscreens are actually bonded into the car permanently. Now, I know you guys have only had a couple of attempts at this, but John, what do you think of the tool?
Yeah, it's excellent. We'll be taking 2 of these to the road accident rescue competition in July.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm outside to try out these clean, green personal transport. They're all-terrain roller skates. Now, the inventor should be around here somewhere. And what do you know? He comes from the home of all indispensable sports equipment, the west coast of America. Pat, hi.
Hello.
So, what's so good about these skates, then?
Well, the air tires allow you to skate on a variety of terrain, and the brakes make it possible to stop.
Very handy. Well, I was having a go this afternoon, and I have to say I wasn't doing brilliantly. But perhaps that's not a surprise, because apparently it's a kind of cross between skating and skiing. I'm really not very good at either. Now, the idea was that we were both going to skate up the hill to the studio, but I'm afraid I've wimped out. I'm going to leave it to the expert. So over to you, Pat. Bye.
Okay.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah. Get around, round, round, I get around, I get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around. I'm getting bugged driving up and down the same old strip. I gotta find a new place where the kids are hip.
Summer's here, and along with it a sprinkling of drought orders and hosepipe bans. And what doesn't help is that up to 1/3 of water supplied leaks out of the pipes before it reaches our taps. The trouble isn't with the spectacular plumes of water you sometimes see in the street, but with pipes buried deep underground where leaks can be difficult to trace. But in April, one of the major water companies introduced a new and far more sensitive leak detection method which can quickly pin down which pipes are leaking. After only 6 weeks, their detection system has helped cut the leakage rate by 9%. Doesn't sound much, but it's enough to give each person in London an extra 2 baths a day. Some of them need it. Now, come and have a look at this. Early in the 1950s, a new craze swept through Hollywood. Films in 3 dimensions. Soon, they said, even TV would be made this way. But it never happened. 40 years on, you're still watching us on flat old 2D sets. Is 3D television ever going to happen?
Well, the basic way to make three-dimensional images was discovered over 150 years ago. It's this, the Victorian stereoscope. And in theory, you should be able to see the 3D effect at home. What you have to do is pick up a magazine, hold it up right between your eyes, like that, then move towards the television screen, making sure you get it right in the middle, and look straight ahead, and you'll see a Victorian garden scene in 3D. It's actually two slightly different photographs of the same scene taken from about 3 inches apart. The left eye only sees the left picture and the right eye the right picture. Your brain combines them to produce a three-dimensional scene in your head. Well, it just about works, doesn't it? But it's not ideal, particularly if more than one person wants to watch TV.
Which brings us to the old red and green specs. Why haven't they given us mass 3D viewing? They work the same way, feeding each eye with a different view of the scene. One of them is coloured red and this one is coloured green, and the specs only let the left eye see the red picture and the right eye see the green. And things really do fly right out of the screen at you. But you'll get a headache after about a quarter of an hour, and it only really works well on black and white films.
This system, though, works very well in colour. Now, the screen is flicking very fast between two different views. So fast you can see both. There are two views there of the rotor blades. And these glasses have rapidly flickering shutters, so you can see only one rotor with one eye. We just go in there with the right eye and move it across, and you can see just the other with the left eye. I hope you've seen that clearly. The effect is really good when you look through here. You're in fact seeing a bit of flickering on the screen, but that's our cameras. But to use all of this for television would mean junking all the equipment used today to transmit television pictures. And if you were going to do that, you might as well go for a system that doesn't involve wearing these.
Which brings us to exhibit number 3, a 3D picture without specs. It's really a high-class version of those postcards where the picture changes when you tilt them. Different views of the scene are cut into narrow strips and laid out next to each other, and that's what your TV would have on it. And then that's viewed through a sheet of thin prisms that's placed in front of the screen. And this is the sort of effect that you get. It looks pretty good. Now, a lot of serious money is going into developing this idea, but it only works if you're sitting almost directly in front of the TV.
For all-round, spectacle-free 3D viewing, what about these holograms? A three-dimensional image conjured out of a flat sheet of photographic glass. Now, for television, you'd need a rapid sequence of changing holograms, which this system can't provide. But at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston, they've been working on a system that can.
Humming away in a basement room may be the future of television. It's got a way to go yet. It'll only show cartoons, and it takes a supercomputer to generate them. But this is the first holographic TV. 16 new holograms a second to create a moving 3D image, and it really is very convincing. I can see a 3D flower pot gently spinning in space. Now, of course, you're watching this on a two-dimensional TV set, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. The hologram is built up in horizontal lines by bouncing a laser beam off two fast-moving mirrors. The first, in there, scans the laser beam up and down, and the second, spinning extremely quickly in there, scans it from side to side. But the heart of the system is a crystal of tellurium dioxide here. This is where the laser beam picks up the patterns for the hologram. Tellurium dioxide is an unusual substance because it can bend light according to the frequency of sound that you play into it. To produce the holograms, complex patterns of high-frequency sounds are played into that crystal. To get a moving holographic image means feeding 50,000 different patterns of sound into the crystal every second. And each one takes a lot of computer power to work out. The Model 2 connection machine is one of the most powerful supercomputers in the world. With 16,000 microprocessors working in parallel, the CM2 is capable of 1 billion calculations a second. It takes 6 billion calculations just to produce 1 second of a simple holographic cartoon. And it's still a long way from showing the complex images of the real world. So is holographic TV in the home really possible?
Well, I think holographic television will appear in our homes somewhere in the future. It's not crazy to dream that some kind of liquid crystal screen could be made, for example, with the resolution that we need. I'm an example of what I like to call a stereopath. You know, I have an obsessive relationship to 3D, and I believe that it's an historical inevitability that all of that's going to happen.
But even if it could be made to work, holographic TV would still be just a box showing images in the corner of your room. And a lot of 3D researchers want something else, something that makes you feel you're actually part of it, inside the action, something like virtual reality. So you've got a headset here, and I hope you can see that. There are 2 little TV screens showing each eye different views. Now, so far, this has been mainly used in interactive computer games, but television could be watched this way, and much lighter headsets are already being developed, like this one. I think people might be willing to wear something like this to get into the world of virtual TV. Also, it might be possible to broadcast virtual TV with some of the equipment we're using to transmit the 2D pictures you're watching now. And that could be the deciding factor in the search for 3D TV. Now, a film about marriage and inheritance in India.
This woman is being dressed for her marriage. It's a serious affair. Preparation for the wedding.
Monty Python gave stuffed birds a bad name, but science is now trying to revive interest in them. Researchers at Glasgow University have enlisted thousands of stuffed birds from museum collections to help study environmental pollution over the last 150 years. By analysing feathers from living seabirds and comparing them with their Victorian relatives, the researchers found all the birds were increasingly contaminated with mercury, except one type, the Fulmer. They were worse off a century ago, perhaps because of what they were eating. By analysing the feathers again, the researchers believe they can find the answer. They suggest the Fulmer's main food was the leftovers of the Victorian whaling industry, a diet that contained more mercury. Who says dead birds don't talk?
Real scientific breakthroughs are few and far between, but believe it or not, this faint flashing red light could be the biggest breakthrough in electronics since the invention of the silicon microchip.
A silicon chip is covered in thousands of metal pathways carrying electrical signals. Now, designing a network of paths like this is incredibly difficult because they mustn't cross. If they did, there'd be a short circuit. Now, imagine designing a road network where roads can't cross. Now, we've got a direct road here from Glasgow to London. But if you want to connect Shrewsbury here with Norwich, you can't cross that road, so you'd have to go right round. Then if you wanted to get from Birmingham to Nottingham, the only way would be via Glasgow, right round like that. Now, today's chips are so complex, let's have a look at this one here, that the equivalent of a trip from Liverpool to Manchester might take you via Tokyo. On today's chips, that limits their speed and their power.
One solution would be to use light instead of electricity to make those connections. Light beams like these from these 2 projectors can pass right through each other without being disturbed. If you could get silicon to generate light, you could replace all the metal pathways on a chip with beams of crisscrossing light.
A nice idea, but unfortunately silicon doesn't generate light. That special property is limited to a very few materials, and silicon isn't one of them.
But scientists at the Defence Research Agency at Malvern discovered that if you treat silicon with a very strong acid, you get a remarkable effect. Unlike ordinary silicon, The new treated silicon absorbs ultraviolet light from this lamp and generates red light. No one's absolutely sure why that happens. What they do know is that the acid eats into the silicon, making microscopic holes. The holes widen until they each begin to touch each other, and that eventually leaves not holes, but columns of silicon. The columns are, in fact, less than 100 atoms across, forming a microscopic forest on the surface. The silicon atoms in such narrow columns appear to have very different properties from the atoms in the original block, so they actually start to emit light.
But putting light in to get light out is just the first step. The real holy grail is to make the silicon give off light by putting in electricity. The way would then be clear for a leap forward into superfast electronics, not built with metal pathways, but using beams of light instead.
Which brings us back to this. For the first time anywhere in the world, a piece of silicon which can generate flashes of red light using electricity. And I think you can clearly see that there's just a little red flash in the middle there. Well, it is early days, but already silicon chips do everything from calculating flight paths to the moon to deciding when to stop your spin cycle. And this silicon breakthrough could revolutionize the start of the next century, just as chips changed the end of this one.
This isn't actually a story about trains, although it does have trains in it. No, it's a story about life and death. How much is a life worth? And what are we prepared to pay to cheat death? Cue that train. SPAD is a word ingrained in every train driver's mind. It stands for signal passed at danger. It's like jumping a red light, only you can lose your job doing it, or lose the lives of all the passengers on board.
David, you have permission to pass ME94 at danger.
Car drivers break the rules of the road every hour of every day. And people die, 100 of them every week. We just take it as a grim fact of life and carry on driving. But from our trains, we expect 100% safety. And if one crashes, it makes the news every time. Signals passed at danger are rare, and few actually cause an accident, although with each one, hundreds of lives can be at risk. But not all accidents are caused by SPADs. This report on the Clapham Junction accident seized upon a study which had been started by British Rail before the crash. The study was into ATP, automatic train protection, a system of avoiding SPADs and keeping trains on the right side of the lights. QC Anthony Hidden said it had to be implemented within 5 years. He didn't say how much it would cost. Automatic train protection works. It intervenes to stop a train from passing a red signal, and until the signal's changed, it won't allow the driver to move off again. The system is now up and running on 2 of British Rail's lines, where it's being tested before it's installed network-wide. ATP is added to the existing signalling system. Engineers connect a box of electronics to every signal. Each box is programmed with a detailed description of a section of track, the speed limit, the gradient and so on, and it monitors the changing colour of the signals. All that information is transmitted to the train by wires running along the track, so the train knows exactly where to stop. Inside, computers calculate when the driver has to brake to stop in time, knowing that type of train's performance. If the driver approaches a red signal too fast, the brakes are automatically applied. It is clever. So technology rides into the breach once more and provides another answer for tomorrow's world. But it costs £600 million. That's what it will cost British Rail to fit it to every train and every signal. And in the past 10 years, it would have saved just 20 lives. Of course, I know that if it were me sitting on a train, heading through a red signal, I'd want the money spent. Or if it were my father, or my brother, or girlfriend. It sounds like a pretty convincing argument, the one which says you can't place a cash value on a human life. We'll spend whatever it takes. But organisations like BR are placing cash value on human lives all the time. They're installing this big, flashy, expensive equipment because the Clapham report told them to. But the irony is that even at £600 million, it wouldn't have stopped the Clapham Junction disaster. That was the signal's fault, not the driver's. Meanwhile, dozens of other simpler life-saving projects, like providing better locks for the older trains, are having to fight it out for their share of British rail money.
Good evening. Have you got a minute? Promise you'll find it worthwhile. Now, cleaning a house like yours must be a real problem. Vacuum cleaner making a racket, using quite literally tons of electricity, and you always have to do some bits twice, am I right? Well, have I got some good news for you, because this machine contains what we call an electronic audio detection system. But don't make your mind up yet. I'll tell you how it works. There's a tiny little drum with a microphone inside here that listens to the dirt going in, except that you can't see it. Is that your kettle drum? Just the job, makes it easier. Well, what happens is, when the dirt goes into the bag, it hits the drum on the way, and that obviously makes a noise. Yeah, you heard that, didn't you? Well, you're lucky I came prepared, because if there's a lot of dirt, it makes a lot more noise. And the clever thing is that the cleaner detects the noise, and because there's more dirt, it increases the power. Now, before you make a decision, I can tell that you want to see it work. Oh, I say, what a lovely rug. Lucky I came prepared. Right, I'll just switch her on, sort her out. Now, the thing to listen for is the change in the sound. We'll put it over here where there's not much dirt, and it's at that level. Then put it over here where there's a lot more trouble. Changes up there to full power. Back again over here. And it drops down to low power again. Now, I'm sure you'll agree that that's going to be saving electricity, a big improvement over what you're using at the moment. What are you using at the moment? One of these. Do you want another?
Well, now the answer to last week's competition to win a holiday in Spain. We asked, how quickly could you get from London to Seville if you travelled at the speed of the fastest human nerve signal? 4 seconds, 4 minutes, or 4 hours? Well, most of you thought 4 seconds, but it's actually 4 hours. The holiday winner, who should get there slightly faster by plane, has been chosen at random from those who wrote in with the correct answer, and it is Roger Irwin of Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. Well, we'll be in touch to arrange a pair of tickets, which include a 3-day pass to Expo 92 and a tour of the British Pavilion. Congratulations. Well, that's it from us. We'll be back next Wednesday. Till then, goodbye.
Next on BBC One, comedy from those ever-inventive Birds of a Feather.